you're not going to ever be happy than you are today. You are right now. So why not just learn to embrace the struggle, embrace, embrace the suck basically, but love the fact that you're on this journey and you're getting better.
Welcome to Built with me, Katie Chunghwa. Listen every week as I talk with athletes, entertainers, and entrepreneurs about how they built who they are today and get the inside scoop about their lives. I'm extremely excited to announce our next guest. I have known him for years and I've really seen him blossom to who he is now. Fitness expert, gym owner, YouTuber, Biggest Loser trainer, bodybuilder, everyone's favorite male model.
Let's go. That was a hell of an intro.
You got a hell of a reputation, so you're okay with that.
That's awesome.
So I met you, I want to say like almost 10 years ago. I've known you forever. And I met you at the gym, I think either through like Mike Beaker or Brandon Poe.
Yep.
I don't remember which one, but they used to be my lunchtime workout buddies. And you were in town. So you had just moved back, I want to say, to Idaho. I don't know where you were before, but you were kind of going through a rough patch in your life. And I think it's really important to talk about this because I feel like this is kind of a pivotal moment where you kind of found yourself. So do you want to elaborate a little bit?
I was, I think just going through a divorce, basically. I just I was living with my parents at the time. I just moved back into their house. My wife at the time said, she didn't want to be married anymore. We got married super, super young. We kind of dated at the end of high school and dated on and off the first couple of years of college. And then we decided to tie the knot because when you're in Idaho or Utah, that's what you do when you're young. So we thought we were doing the right thing, but we just weren't ready to get married. And, she ended up being like, okay, yeah, I don't want to be married anymore. And it was kind of soul crushing, I would say, for like 3 weeks. It's like, what? Like my life, thought we were going to have kids. This is my person. But after, I moved out and kind of got back on my feet, I kind of really quickly realized that there was so many things in my life that I needed to work on and kind of focus and shift and finish college, figure out what I wanted to do and just, learn how to be on my own, learn okay. Because I went from being on high school, mom and dad taking care of you, to college playing football, to then right into like a relationship where it was like almost like I never had to be on my own. So it was important for me to learn how to do that, but it was rough. You feel like a failure telling people, you went through a divorce. I was a college football player and, had a brief shot at some tryouts of some NFL teams. And when it didn't work out, I came back, we moved back to Boise where we were both from. And I was still, I think 16 credits short of my degree. And I was just kind of like lost. And then we got divorced and I was, what do I do now? And fitness had always been a passion of mine from all of this, like really focused in on nutrition and training and bodybuilding.com being in Boise where you were working, with people like Brandon Poe and Mike B. Like it was the place to be in Boise, in that whatever 2005. It was the spot to be, I feel like working. So I just was like, hey, I want to get in on this. I want to, see how I can, be a part of this on some level.
I think that watching you kind of find your way was great because you really touched on what I wanted to talk about. And that was taking time to yourself. And I feel like so many people jump from, even especially after college, after high school, in a relationship, you don't ever take that time to really figure out who you are or what you want. Because you're thinking about what does my spouse want,
yep.
What's next in the career, but you don't get the time to be alone. And it's so important to just be happy by yourself and to really listen about like what you want to do.
There's so many people, I think, and we as Americans, I think, do this more than other countries. We think you have to have it all figured out in your early 20s. Like you go to college, you get a degree, you get a job, you don't live with mom and dad. And that really is such an American thought process. And it probably has a lot of the reason why, America is successful in a lot of ways, but it also, I think, sets a lot of mental anguish because you're not supposed to have things figured out in your early 20s. You're supposed to try different jobs. You're supposed to, start school and maybe take some time off and travel the world, figure out what you want to do, what your passions are. 23-year-old kid to do that, it's a really difficult thing. So I get a lot of kids that you're like, I want to do this or I want to do that. And it's like, okay, go after it, try it. Don't be afraid to sleep on the couch or, have to roommates. Don't feel like, because that 15-hour a week, or 15-hour, job, that 40-hour work week where you're making $15 an hour, that's always going to be there. You're always going to run out of time in your life where you can pursue your passion. Like, it's a lot harder when you're 40 with kids to be like, no, I'm dropping everything and going. Worry about, if you're not making a ton of money when you're a kid, just follow your passion.
Well, and that leads to when you hit that midlife crisis, right?
Yeah.
You didn't follow your dreams. You didn't follow your passion. You're asking yourself what you're doing. So figuring that out while you can, while maybe your parents are helping you out, or while you can get that easy job, you need to figure out like what you really want. So I know that growing up, you weren't a stranger to working out, lifting weights. You played football. Was bodybuilding and doing all that you're doing now, competing, a goal of yours? Was that end game?
My end game was always the NFL. Like, growing up, I was good, not great. I was an all-state football guy. So for Idaho, I was good, but all of a sudden you get to the college level and now you're compared against the best in California and Texas. And, I quickly realized, man, probably is looking like it's not going to happen. And that's an identity crisis, at where, you're doing well, but again, the idea is that you're going to go onto the NFL now. When that dream kind of came to an end, I was lost. I was like, my identity was always wrapped around being that football player. So it really took some time for me to figure out what I wanted to do. It was always, you train like an athlete, and then it was like, I did beach muscles secondary. I always trained, I would always do bicep curls. Because I liked the attention that I got from, the opposite sex. And even like coaches and stuff, they would notice, you're putting on size, you're putting on muscle, you like the compliments from people. And it was something just I naturally gravitated. Dad started me at an early age with lifting weights. And then I just loved it. So once I got done with football and I needed, something, especially going through the divorce, it was easy for me to be like, you know what, I want to give this bodybuilding a go. Brandon Poe was doing natural bodybuilding shows. Brandon Poe was, he did his little bodybuilding.com series. I'm like, oh, I'll try some natural bodybuilding. And so, we do the whole, tiny little man bikinis, the tan. This one was a tested, polygraph and urinalysis. So it was really cool to go from that, because I don't think I would have been ready for like the IFBB or the NPC. It was, I think it was the, Idaho bodybuilding or whatever. It was actually an Alaska bodybuilding federation that had a show in Boise. But so yeah, I kind of got in it that way and really had to learn the nutrition side of things. And I just soaked it up like a sponge. I loved it.
That's so funny, because you had a similar path for me. Like it is hard I was defined as a hockey player, and then I didn't play, and then I didn't know what to do, who I was. And it was actually my dad that said, why don't you try to compete? I was like, why? And I did it. And it was the same small local Idaho show.
Yeah.
But you learn nutrition, and it's incredible what you learn about how much your body changes with nutrition. And I think that's such an interesting thing. In the same way, yes, like you all of a sudden consume that information because you're like, wow, this is so cool. And I love seeing that.
You honestly, I think it's one of those things that it opens up a whole new world when you realize how to count macronutrients. And not that I do it all the time. I really rarely ever do it anymore, but it gives you this idea that you're in the driver's seat. You know what you're putting in your mouth. That's got a lot of fat or that doesn't. And all of a sudden, and it was just so fun because I moved back in with my parents after the divorce, and I helped my dad lose weight. And that really, again, you can talk about passion, finding out what your passion is. I had a passion for healthy recipes and eating right, but that passion quickly kind of turned, almost obsessive. And that's where, kind of the next couple of years of my life kind of led to, was that obsession.
Yeah. So 2-time Mr. Olympia winner, and obviously numerous other wins for competitions. What is your mindset when you're going into these shows and competing during these shows?
Yeah, so I was a 2-time men's physique Mr. Olympia competitor. I never won the Mr. Olympia. I did win the Muscle and Fitness Male Model Search at the Olympia. But going into those competitions, it's crazy. I actually I like prepping for a show on so many levels, because your day, you have to be regimented. You have to be on a schedule. It forces you to wake up and go to bed at the same time. It forces you to work out consistently, to eat foods. I think the healthiest I've ever been is like, 6 weeks out from a show when I'm still like, 6-7% body fat. I'm looking good. I'm still eating enough that I'm able to have really good workouts. The last month of a show prep is hell. Like, you're now at a caloric deficit and you've been at one for, 10 weeks and you're just kind of dragging ass getting through things. But really at that 8 to 6 weeks phase, it's like, I know what I'm putting in my body. It's organic, whole foods, lots of veggies, lots of water. I'm on my fish oil and I feel great. I'm getting good sleep. And so going through that first process of the bodybuilding show is fun. And then it's that grind that is that last month where, you're practicing, you're posing, your cardio gets up, your calories go down. And then, obviously there's prep week, which is super stressful, trying to get the water, salt, and it helps having a coach that can kind of look at you and help out. But, those shows were really a lot more for me about the prep and sharing the content that I got from the prep YouTube series and whatnot. The actual day of the show is like, win or lose, it really, now don't get me wrong, it's always nice to win, but the day after a show, I was usually no more happy if I had won or lost, and maybe I say that, like, I guess what I'm saying is if I won a show, it was almost like a letdown. Like, I just trained my ass off for 16 weeks, did all this, and this is like, I thought it was going to be at a lot more of a high than this. And then if you lose a show, it's like, oh damn, like that sucks. But the next day you're like, yeah, I'm still going to go have a cheat meal. I'm still going to get back to the gym. I'm still going to do some magazine shoots and I'm happy with how I look. So, I think, my overall record, I probably lost, I don't know what it was, 4 or 5 shows and won like 10. So I've had my fair share of winning and, some losing in there. And while it's definitely always nice to win, I found that I felt a little empty even after those wins, because it's like, you didn't really compete. It's not like football where there's just this hard fought battle between people. You get up there, you kind of flex your muscles for 10 minutes and the judge tells you to turn around and to the side and you do your routine if you're in bodybuilding, and then, you're off the stage. And then there's no, like, I don't know, there's no physical nature about it. It's all just someone like you're a show pony.
Yeah, you can't do anything on stage at that time to beat somebody. If somebody prefers your look over somebody else's or vice versa, like, you can't change that. And that's my issue that I had with it. Was I did a show in Finland for fun and all the blondes took the top. And then I was like the first brunette. So it was kind of like, maybe it just wasn't my figure. Maybe it was just what I looked like, and you can't change that. And you don't know.
Yes.
It wasn't. But I'm curious to know, so women, and just from personal experience, when you are competing and when you're at that peak physical shape, and then you go back to being normal, which is healthier than even when you're, 5% body fat for women or whatever. Did you experience any body dysmorphia, or do you currently? Because I know personally for me, unless I'm in that show shape, I find things that are wrong consistently.
Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah. It's a definite thing that happens with men. I think with men, it's okay to have a bulking phase. I think men suffer from it just the same as women. It's just about how it's labeled and how we recognize it. And men, bodybuilders, that's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to blow up in the off season. They're not supposed to have a 6-pack year round or whatnot. And I think we're getting more and more people that are staying, in relatively good shape. Girls, it's also, if you're a guy and you weigh 225 pounds, if you gain 20 pounds, that's if you're a girl and gain 15 pounds and you're only, and you're if you're 110 pounds or whatnot and gain 15 pounds, that 15 pounds is going to show way more on you than, a bodybuilder who's 220 who gains 20 pounds. So it's one of those things that I've always kind of seen that, especially with women, and they're usually a little bit more open to talking about it. I think we've all been in that, especially when Instagram first started for me, and I was doing show after show after show. And then it came to this point where I stopped doing, I took like a year off and I kind of gained some weight and again, got healthy because I was binge eating a lot. And I would only post my, ripped, shirtless photos. It was just throwback. And I think so many people in the fitness industry do that, when I was more heavily involved in the competing world, I know so many people would do that, because you'd go to expos and you'd see people and you're like, you don't look anything like your Instagram. And that was always really difficult for me to try to keep up with how I wanted to look.
I think that when I went to shows, that was one of the first things that I thought about. I'm like, wow, this person doesn't look anything like it. But at the same time, people are also doing those photo shoots that they're in magazines right after they do those shows. So right after they're prepping. So I think there is a misconception, not only on social media, but in magazines about what people are supposed to look like year round. And that's just added pressure on top of you already feeling bad about yourself because you look a certain way, but now other people are expecting you to look a certain way all the time. And it's just completely unrealistic.
It's completely unrealistic. Yeah, there are some people that are genetically just so gifted that they do stay that lean, but they typically don't. What I'm seeing more and more now with Instagram people, guys or girls, it's the people that just train and live a healthy lifestyle consistently and don't do shows that can maintain a better level of body fat or a lower level of body fat. Because what happens with shows, it's not extremely difficult to live at that 6 or 7% for me. Like, it takes work, but the amount of effort it takes to go from 6% to 4% is so much harder to get there. And I'm sure with girls, it's the same, just kind of maybe on a sliding scale, a little bit different body fat percentage wise. So I can live, pretty healthy at 7%, feel good, still have proper hormone functions and whatnot. When I get down to 4%, things start suffering. So naturally, your body wants to swing back. So you've been at, 4%, you've done photo shoots, you're there for, almost a month. Okay, now your body wants to swing back, and it's usually up to 12% real quick if you don't reverse diet out of a show. And again, the idea that, you need to look that certain way. I can remember times after a bodybuilding show, win or lose, the next day, like holding on to my shape for a photo shoot, and then that following week, just going completely berserk, couldn't control my eating. And it's because your body has been in that starvation mode for so long that it's just telling you, give me calories. And you're giving yourself sugar. Your body gets inflamed. You feel like crap. You don't go to the gym. And all of a sudden there's this massive swing. And it really can lead to some serious, I think, depression for that time. Not like clinical long-term depression, but like this idea of like this yo-yo dieting that is so detrimental to people. And if you do it that long enough, it can have some long-term effects that are negative.
Yes, it can. Do you think that you're ever going to compete in a show again?
I never want to say never. I have no plans. Like right now, I'm planning on doing a sprint triathlon. It's more for me. I think over the years, kind of developed a bad taste in my mouth towards everything that we kind of talked about that goes into it. The people that it attracts, and that's such a generalized statement. I realize that's not fair to everyone who competes, but the people that fitness industry can, like I'll talk to people and their background, like no offense, if your background is your screensaver of when you're shredded on stage, there's more important things in life. There's so many people that, I talk to back in that bodybuilding fitness, girls and guys, and I'm sure I did it at some point in time. So I was totally guilty of this, but it's like, oh yeah, it's my motivation. It's me when I'm on stage, 4%, I'm just grinding to get back there. And it's just like, no, man, like that's not what this life is about. Like, it's not about you. It's not about, like, don't you realize when you're that focused on you, you're not leaving any space or you're not thinking about anyone else. So, I don't want to say I never will, because you learn a lot about yourself. You learn a lot about nutrition, but you can become obsessed and there could be some definitely unhealthy habits. And then again, it's such a me culture.
It is, absolutely. I think there are very beneficial things because you learn dedication, you learn hard work, you learn how hard you can push yourself. But there is that whole toxic side that you just talked about that now looking back on it is so funny to me. But I mean, it comes the good with the bad. For me personally, I'm glad it's in my past. But
yes, I'm glad I went through it.
Yes, we've been there, done that. I do have to say, you have a physique that men strive for. So let's talk about some of your top training tips of people who, are following you, who are working out, who are trying to build muscle, live, and I want to say this, a happy and healthy life, because we know from the competition side that it can be very toxic. So what are some of your top tips?
My top tips would be, especially if you're in that physique world and and all of a sudden it's all been about how you look, switch it up to a performance goal. So it's so easy to not worry about, if you're concentrating on performance, the looks kind of just happen. If you're focused on health, if you're focused on giving your body proper nutrition and training hard, you're still going to look great. You're still going to look better than, 99% of people out there, because most people don't train and eat healthy. So if you train hard and have a purpose for your training, like a goal, again, my girlfriend, she's great gymnast, does things with her hands. Her diet is somewhat lacking, but she's got a great metabolism. She's young and she trains and loves it. She doesn't focus on how she looks and becomes obsessed with what she's putting in her body. She still eats healthy most of the time, but like, she doesn't think about it. She doesn't have any kind of weird food related issues. And that's so healthy. So I always tell people, if you need to get back, have a performance goal. Don't worry about how you look. That'll take care of itself. The other thing I would say is it's all about consistency rather than everyone at the beginning of the year has their New Year's resolution. They're going to eat perfect. They're going to train 5 days a week. It's not realistic. It's not realistic to eat veggies and chicken and rice every single meal. I still do it probably 6 times a week because I love that meal, but it's not realistic to totally change everything about your life and stick with it. Like, you have to. That's why I like flexible dieting. That's why I like counting macros. You realize you don't have to be stuck in the same 4 meals. And so it's consistency. It's doing what you can when you can and not getting caught up. If you miss the workout, it's a lot. If you have this perfect mindset, if you miss a workout, it's easy to kind of spiral down. It's kind of like, again, the feast or famine mentality. And it was this way for me when I was competing. If I was in prep mode and I had if I had a bite of one bad food, it could be pizza. I worked at a restaurant, so it could be pizza, it could be dessert, it could be ice cream. I mentally beat myself up and I would end up binge eating and just go out there and I would hate myself. So it was this awful cycle where if I had one bite of something, I couldn't realize that one bite is very different. If it's about health, one bite of something isn't bad. Going out and eating a dozen donuts, that is not okay. That's not healthy to sit in your car and eat a dozen donuts. And I've been there, and I've done those things. And so it's like, it's knowing the difference between, all in doesn't mean like you never mess up. We're human. We're going to all make mistakes. We're all going to fall short. So stop striving for perfection. Just strive to get better. And that kind of mentality long-term, if you take that, like, hey, I'm just here to get better than I was yesterday. I'm just here, I'm never going to be perfect. I'm never going to love everything about myself, but I'm going to go into the gym. It's my therapy. It's my release. And it also helps me look the way I want to look and helps me perform the way I want to perform. If you can kind of keep that mindset, you're always going to be successful in the gym.
It's a lifestyle, right? So when people adapt these new changes, or when they take on these new changes, they have to realize that it's a lifestyle change. It's not, I'm going to do this and I'm going to be super strict. I'm not going to have mistakes. Like, you're changing your life. You are the way you are because of the way you live. And so making those small changes and living and having mistakes and accepting, which is such a huge thing, accepting when you have those mistakes is what helps you continue on a successful road.
That's part of your journey. And that's, I guess the last thing would probably be just kind of that on your journey. You're never going to get to this place where like, oh, I'm perfect. I'm just going to continue doing what I'm doing. I'm going to maintain this. I feel great. Like, I told this to the people on The Biggest Loser. When you lose whatever goal weight it is, let's say your goal weight's to lose 100 pounds. As soon as you hit 100 pounds, you're going to look at yourself and say, oh, I have some loose skin, or now I want to gain muscle. No one's ever 100% happy with where they're at unless they're always happy. If you're always happy, that's the real, like, be happy. It's not to say, you don't have to be wanting something more for yourself or have goals, but be happy, embracing that daily struggle. I think this is on social media. This runs rampant as well. We're all thinking, oh, I'll be happy when I have, Kylie Jenner's lips or Kardashian butt, or I'm traveling like this person, or I have this car. And again, I'm guilty of this as well. But it's the exact same, this I'm going to be happy when mentality. No, you're not going to ever be happy than you are today. You are right now. So why not just learn to embrace the struggle, embrace, embrace the suck, basically, but love the fact that you're on this journey and you're getting better.
Yes, absolutely. I couldn't have said it better myself. That's perfect. So you've accomplished so much in your career, wins, covers, you've done acting, you're a business owner. What do you think is your favorite thing about what you're doing now?
Oh, that's a good thing. That's a good question. I think it's tough because I'm kind of this mindset that balance doesn't exist. Like balance is this thing that's floating out there. We're always talking about, oh, I need more balance in my life. I think that there's times that you just focus on, like balance is this overall thing that you can look back on and be like, oh, at this point in my life, I focused more on this because I needed to. At this time in my life, I focused more on this. Like when I was doing the bodybuilding shows, I don't regret that because I learned so much and it led me to where I'm at. I had no balance in my life because I was just going full tilt with traveling the world for Optimum, doing stuff with bodybuilding.com, doing shows, doing YouTube. And I needed to go through that to where I'm at now. I think this place I'm at, where I'm at in my life right now, is creating some long-term businesses that will be, that will go on without me. And that's the goal, is to create something that can kind of outlast you, that you can still make money on. And then also I would say personal life, relationship goals. I got divorced at 23 or 24, right in there. I'm now 35, and I feel like, I've met someone in my life now that it's, it's time to kind of get back to, okay, yeah, I want a family. I want to, settle down. St. George is a great place to do that. So it's kind of, there's just different seasons of life. And when you're in one of those, you do it to the best of your ability, and you do what you have to on those other areas that you can't neglect, but they might not be. Like my YouTube right now isn't probably as great as it should be, but I'm just not crazy passionate about it at the moment. So rather than just force myself and put out content I don't like, it's kind of working on other areas and then getting back to it when the time's right.
Yeah. Well, I think that you've created, such a great platform for yourself across all boards. And like I said, when I introduced you, you are a business owner. You own Fitness Culture in St. George. You also do some stuff with the app. You are investing. You're huge on social media. You're huge on YouTube. And so you've built this successful life that now you can pursue other means of passion, like a family. And what are some of your goals in the next 5 years that we should expect to see?
Ooh, next 5 years. I think for me, it's going to be continue to raise the bar with our app, to really make it, a great place where everything that we do with my business partner, Jacob Hutton, the guy's an absolute beast. He played college football, CrossFit. He approaches training from like almost a strictly performance standpoint. So, we have a good yin and yang. He is, again, an animal. So it's really developing that, maybe developing some other apps that allow personal trainers to get in with clients if people want to do more online personal training, like ways that personal trainers can really profit off of an online following. Supplements that we should be launching supplements this fall. Kind of a passion project also. So supplements have been a long time coming, and we've searched high and low, and I'm really excited that we've hit the nail on the head with these, because I didn't want to just release anything. I was with Optimum Nutrition for forever. Good company, really liked what they were about, but I thought I was going to have the opportunity to do my own supplements with them. That didn't pan out. So this is going to be really fun. And hopefully, with COVID, hopefully we can open up, we can get a vaccine or something, because I want to travel and get back to like meeting people, like back at the expo days, pop-up stores. Gymshark does such a great job with customer like interaction stuff. So would love to do that. Hopefully get over to Australia. With Morgan, we have a passion project that we will be releasing in November. That's kind of fun, it's something we both wear a lot, and it's not like fitness clothes. So it's kind of a fun thing that we've been just working so hard on lately. And it's fun to kind of do that with someone that you love and you care about. It's like, they're passionate about it, you're passionate about it. You can both get a little bit heated at times because, we're opinionated people, but I think it's one of those things that too many people, like, I think about how many people that I know growing up, spouse went off to work, husband went off to work, wife went off to work, and they didn't see each other for like, 10 hours a day, and then all of a sudden they come back at night, they eat dinner, they're exhausted, they go to bed. And it's like, you really want to do that like for the next 30 years is just, spend time apart. So I'm just so grateful that we can spend time together. So hopefully, settle down, have a family, do kind of, always be about fitness and healthy lifestyle, but do more family oriented stuff, travel the world, who knows, maybe end up in Australia, open up a gym up there and have some babies.
Wow. Well, I can't wait. It's an amazing life.
That's in my head, that visualization process. It's funny too, because when I go back, I think you have to be able to visualize your life. Yeah. If you can't visualize it first, it's probably not going to happen. And I remember the first kind of fitness visualization I did was, I think it was the Body Space. You were at bodybuilding.com. It was Ben Booker who won the year before me, and Sean Harley who won the year before Ben Booker. And I just looked at those guys and was like, you know what? I can do this. I can do what they're doing. I'm visualizing I will be the next Body Space spokesmodel winner. And it just, kind of things in life just end up happening. It's crazy how it works out. But it was definitely one of those things that I visualized and I wanted, like every day, putting in like, oh yeah, I'll take pictures at bodybuilding.com for free shirts. You guys, you kind of lined me up with that, I remember. So there's a lot that I'm thankful for you to kind of getting my foot into that bodybuilding.com door. But everything, you have to visualize it before you do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I saw you and you were like, I'm interested in being a fitness model. And I was like, you know what? If anybody can do it, it's going to be you. So it was a no-brainer there. So I didn't have to do much. I just put you in front of a camera for a couple of things for bodybuilding.
And the rest is history.
The rest is history. I still remember when you were getting ready for that muscle and fitness competition and you were so nervous. And it's so cool to see you just grow in the last, I don't know, decade, like I said, just even in your confidence and in your career and just how much now after you achieved it, that you can go and achieve more.
It's so true. It's like those little small victories. And, the gym does that every single day. If you have a hard workout, if you can like go through this insanely hard workout, all of a sudden it gives you the confidence that, okay, I can go do this. I can finish my degree. And that's what happened. I finished my degree. I was prepping for that muscle and fitness model search. I'd gone through a divorce. I moved back to St. George. And so when I won that show, that was probably my most, like, I felt so good. There's like 250 guys that did it. And when I ended up winning, it was before men's physique was a category yet. So it's kind of like to see what the interest was behind it. And it was obviously overwhelming. So when I won that show, I was just like, I never felt more like, oh, hard work is paying off. And bodybuilding.com then a couple months later when I did the spokesmodel search. But really that was my first Olympia I ever was at. I was probably like a deer in the headlights, just walking around meeting people, Jamie Eason. I can remember the people at bodybuilding.com being like, okay, yeah, come to the bodybuilding.com booth, but you're there to work. You're not there to hang out with Jamie. And I was just always, watching her interact with people is really kind of what I tried to pinpoint. She did such a good job of like introducing herself to every single person. She didn't assume that anyone knew her. And that was such a stark contrast to the bodybuilders at the time who were at these sponsorship booths because, they had to be, not because they wanted to be. They were wearing their big like sweatshirts and just sitting there. And it's like, they had no personality. And Jamie was just this bubble of joy and I was like, that's how I want to do it.
Jamie and Amanda Latona. I think those two, seeing those two at booths, how they would introduce themselves and you're like, well, they obviously know who you are. I don't know why. But that level of humbleness and that level of realness really help people connect with them. And so I think they're great examples of what you should be when you are in a spotlight or when people are fans of yours is be real, be honest, and just be yourself.
Yes. It's so funny because Amanda Latona, the first BFE, the Boise Fitness Expo, I waited in line to meet Amanda Latona and got a picture. And then it was like 3 years later, she's with, I think she was with BSN then, and I was with Optimum Nutrition. Maybe it was 4 years later. And we were in New Zealand together about to go on to this TV show. I was like, Amanda, do you remember me waiting? And she didn't remember at all, but it's just funny how people, when you're in someone else's shoes, going to those expos, meeting people, waiting in line. I remember waiting in line for Charles Glass, waiting in line for the Gaspari booth as well. But it was one of those things that I think that's where Amanda was signed with at the time. But it was one of those things that then to be on the flip side of it, you realize, it's cool because you get to be that person. You're meeting tons of people at these expos, but then you also get to do it your way and realize, okay, what's healthy for me might not be healthy. Like there's a lot of things in the fitness industry that I didn't love in the bodybuilding, competing world, just again, like what we're talking about, this body dysmorphic disorder and where we place value on people.
Yeah, I absolutely. One thing that I did like about those expos is when I went, I met those people and I met them working at booths for bodybuilding.com. And I think the biggest thing is realizing that they're real people and you can get there and it's achievable. If they did it, you can do it. So that was almost like something that was motivating for me is I'm like, hey, I met these people and they're just everyday people and they worked their ass off and that's how they got there. And so
Yeah.
that's how I looked at those expos. I'm like, hey, I can do this. I can
Yeah.
work my ass off. I can network. I can get there. And it was cool once you start to get to that level to kind of look at someone and be like, now you're more my peer, because I have been able to achieve that. And so I hope that people can really like love when they meet you, but also know that they can get to your level by working hard and by pursuing their passion and by being consistent, like you said.
Right. Just being relatable, because I think that's more than anything. Like, you know, when you go to an expo, I can imagine, like, I can't even, so many people talk to me about like, hey, I'm going through this breakup, or, you know, like I'm really struggling because I was this athlete. You know, I read that that's kind of how you got started. And it's just amazing the human connection that happens at that level. And you don't get that with Instagram. You don't get that with social media. So I look back, and while, you know, it was kind of a transitional time in my life, it was really exciting. And I really think that was probably like a golden era of fitness. Like, and you know, and I can't speak to obviously the time before I was around, but when I compare that with the times now, it seems like, you know, social media is this huge thing. You know, there's so many people that are, you know, not, I should say it's all about, you know, again, it's how you look, but it's on social media. You can edit things, you can change things, and you don't really get a sense of a lot of people, their true personality. You can be one way, you know, on YouTube or on Instagram especially, but it's a lot harder to do that in person with people. So I feel like, you know, Instagram right now it's an interesting space for fitness. And I think it's cool because like in quarantine, you can get so many different types of workouts, but there's always going to be that human interaction that to me is based at the most basic instinct and needs, is something that is what we all yearn for.
I really do miss those expos. I agree with you, because not only meeting people, but meeting friends and meeting other competitors, meeting other people that you have things in common. And that interaction, I do miss that. And I noticed there was a big shift when social media took over, even in the expos with the people that were showing up. But I do miss that golden era that you were talking about, and being able to rub shoulders with these Olympians. And, but well, anyway, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I appreciate you so much for being on my show. I can't say enough. You seem genuinely happy, and I love where you're at as a person and with just being an entrepreneur. And I love seeing you happy with Morgan, and I keep putting out great content. And I hope that I can see you soon, hopefully at Zion or something.
Yeah, you guys should come up and do a hike. We're just 2 hours away, so we'll have to do that. Especially like, or I'll come down. We'll bring the boat. Hopefully Morgan can get back from Australia, and we can all go boating in Vegas. But it was fun. It was going down, like, it was kind of a trip down memory lane. And there's definitely some hard, like in the last, I think back, you know, the last 12 years, there's definitely some times you're just like, what am I doing? I think that's probably so many people out there at this time in their life with everything going on in the world. It's kind of like, what is going on? What am I doing? But, you know, times will pass. You'll look back on things, and it'll be a crucial period about, you know, it'll lead people to where they need to be. So I'd say anyone who's struggling out there, just, you know, keep on keeping on, as they say. You know, it's one of those things. It's not an easy world to live in right now, but I appreciate you getting me on here, and it was good talking.
It was great talking to you. Hopefully I will see you soon. We'll beat this COVID.
Yes. yes. We can social distance in national parks. So
sounds good.